Okay, hello everyone, and thank you for joining today. My name is Teresa Edwards. I am the founder of Teshley Solutions, LLC, which you can find at teshley.com. I am going to be your host for this event. This is part of our Career Speaker Series, which takes an examination of different careers and fields that are available. As you know, this one focuses on cybersecurity. We had one that earlier that focused on meteorology, and we are looking forward to doing healthcare and other fields as well, excuse me, human resources. And so you can check the website. We update that under our upcoming events. And just for a little bit of housekeeping, let me start with our disclaimer. The participants in the Teshley Solutions Career Speaker Series sessions offer their personal perspectives, background, education, experiences in their respective careers. While the speakers may offer partial guidance, it should be understood that this is based on a limited set of circumstances. The information shared should not be construed as bona fide career advice or relied upon as a personal guide. You should always seek multiple sources, conduct your own research, and base final decisions on your own personal needs and goals. Today, I am delighted to have with me Don Brightful. He is an expert in this field, and I'm going to take a page from the Kate Luzio book and allow Mr. Brightful to introduce himself.
Hello, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me okay. My name is Don Brightful. Currently, I work for the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, which is a part of the Department of Homeland Security. Also, I run my own business, which is a consulting and training firm that takes individuals with little to no IT skills and trains them to the level of a tier 1 analyst. In addition, we do small to medium-sized business consulting, and we also are in the process of developing products to help the small business handle their cybersecurity needs.
Okay, thank you very much, Don. I appreciate that. Now, as we get going here, for the participants that are here, and there may be some joining us later because I know there are more I see actually here. I am going to open up a question, just get an understanding of how you are enjoying this session today. And so let me see if I can launch this poll. I'm not going to take a lot of time with this. We will see if it gets going there. Okay, if you could just quickly answer that question. It's very brief. And please indicate if you can hear us okay. Okay, we have responses coming in. We have a few more that I'm going to give it a couple of seconds more, and then I'll close it out. Okay, closing out in about 5 seconds. Okay, so we have about 50% that know a little and 50% that know very little. So I am sure Mr. Brightful will be able to fill in the gaps where they exist. So Don, please begin. Oh, having a little trouble hearing you right now.
I apologize. I was on manual mute. There you go. Let me go ahead and share my screen here.
And while you're getting ready to do that, Don, just let me ask you, how did you get started in this field?
Sure. Yeah, actually, I have a pretty good story. So first, I was a retired. Actually, that's on the slide. So let me, if you like, I'll go ahead and run over to the slides. So originally, I was in the United States Air Force. In the beginning, I was planning to become a pilot. Things kind of didn't go that way, and I ended up getting into security. I started out as a weapons troop. I'm originally from West Philadelphia. And somewhere along the way, I had planned my life to go into some kind of aviation field with a little bit of security. As it washed out, I ended up getting into IT and a part of an anti-terrorism program when I was in the United States Air Force. So I ended up leaving the Air Force with my master's degree, and I ended up locking in a job with a contracting firm, which eventually led to me being in cybersecurity, which was the Department of Homeland Security, and that's where I've been ever since.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much. And I remember you telling me you're an Eagles fan. Sorry for your disappointment.
Yes, yes, yes. I've cried in my cheesesteak many times.
Okay, so carry on with your presentation.
You got it. So originally, let me go ahead and go back here a little bit. So just as before, first, let me go ahead and start with a disclaimer. Pretty much, the views and opinions expressed in today's training are solely of those of myself and do not reflect any official policies of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency or the Department of Homeland Security. Although I'm a federal employee with CISA, the opinions expressed here are personal and not affiliated with or endorsed by CISA. The Nexus-Dragon LLC is not affiliated with the federal government, and it should be noted that any references to the Nexus-Dragon LLC are independent of my role at CISA. I do not represent or speak on behalf of CISA, and any opinions related here are my own personal views. So that way, I kind of get that out the, I kind of get that out the way. So,
Understood.
yes, ma'am. So pretty much, who am I? As I explained before, I'm originally from West Philadelphia. I believe Kelly Green. I'm an Eagles fan. May they rest in peace this season. I graduated with a bachelor's and master's degree from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, which is in Florida. It's in Daytona Beach, Florida. I started out in the Air Force as a weapons troop. Also, I should have started with that I am a father of 3 adults in training, which some of you are inside this webinar today. And I call them adults in training because if you're a kid, that's what you're supposed to be doing. You're training to be an adult. I'm an avid Star Trek fan. I like to cook. Also, too, I am what you call a threat hunter. Pretty much, a threat hunter is an individual that goes after cybersecurity threats proactively as opposed to letting the cybersecurity incidents happen. So I don't bore anybody with the inner technical details of a threat hunter. Also, too, if you have any questions as I go along, because with this being a portion of IT, sometimes I'll say things or I'll say acronyms. If you have a question, go ahead and throw it in the Q&A and just interrupt me, and I'll go ahead and answer those questions. Or if you have any kind of questions just related to anything I'm talking about today, it's okay. Throw it in the just throw it in the Q&A. So as I mentioned before, I do what they call proactive hunts on systems for outbound traffic, which is pretty much traffic that leaves your computer and goes out to the internet. Suspicious log-on activity. So if somebody were to log into your Gmail account and you're a part of the organization I was monitoring, there's logs and systems that I can look at to say, hey, I don't think the CEO is on the weekend trying to log in and get into the back-end database when they're on vacation in Bali. Also, too, I do insider threat detection, which means that if there's an individual, let's say an employee that, I don't know, maybe may have nefarious ideas towards the company, I also look at logs and other kind of data points to make sure that they're not a threat to the organization also. I also do cloud security. One thing I did not put on there, now I'm a part of what they call a critical infrastructure team, which means that where you get your gas, your water, your electric, Me and my team are mainly responsible for keeping those safe for across the country. So that's sea to shining sea, Alaska and Hawaii. Also, too, I'm a part of what they call a ransomware detection team right now, too. So my purview is detecting ransomware or try to get ahead of ransomware before it ends up becoming a problem. Some of the other jobs I can do within my role as a threat hunter, I can look for social engineering attempts as well as hunt down targeted threat hunting campaigns. I see. Do you have a question? I see a thumbs up right there.
No, I was just giving you a thumbs up for what you were talking about.
Roger that. All right. Oops. I'm on the wrong screen here. There you go. So, as I said before, pretty much if it's in the news, I'm probably smack dab in the middle of it. And that is not an understatement. Sometimes it's pretty cool to be actually working on something and then actually, like, usually it's a couple days later where you see that some of the stuff and some of the things you've done have actually showed up on CNN. Some past major cyber incidents, I have been smack dab in the middle of doing my job, checking through data sets, and as well as helping organizations get back online or give collaborative information between a lot of the three-letter agencies. And for some of you kids out there, you know the three-letter agencies, to give that information over to stakeholders. So pretty much the Department of Homeland Security is right there in the middle for information sharing. So we're not the CIA, FBI, we're not the Department of Defense. We're actually just right there in the middle. So we cross collaborate and give information to all those different organizations that cannot operate within the confines of the country just due to laws. Does anybody have any questions about that? Anything?
Seems to be a pretty quiet group.
All right.
Perhaps you're going to get to this later in your presentation, but you're talking about it from the governmental side.
Mm-hmm.
What about from the private sector for businesses? Because the headlines have been rife with stories of companies being
Yep, absolutely.
hacked.
So my organization, we're kind of like vampires. You have to invite us in in order for us to come and give you a hand. However, though, if just say you do have an organization that has been breached or an organization that does have an issue, it is a part of their checklist to reach out to us. We'll go ahead and engage with what we call a stakeholder to help them with their situation. So we'll even send incident response teams. They'll give data to us for us to analyze. Also, too, all the organizations that you use on a daily basis, such as what they call it, the IRS, SBA, NASA, we watch all the perimeters and take care of them also. So if something comes up, we're the ones that are kind of take that information and say, hey, is this still happening on other networks that we're responsible for in addition to critical infrastructure? So we got a pretty big job. So hope that answered the question.
Thank you for that.
Right.
Yes, it did. I'm sorry to go ahead. I'm sorry to
No,
interrupt.
you're fine. You're fine. Look, interrupt me, ask away, because like I said, with this, I understand that like a lot of times when we do briefings, we're talking to stakeholders that are other IT shops or like, news organizations or organizations that need a little bit of part of, but with these being youngins, I want them to ask away. When I was a young man, I used to go and ask questions about jobs all the time. So that is definitely a thing. So what do I do on a daily basis? So mostly I work from home due to the pandemic. I do go into the office every once in a while to do any kind of briefings. Also to do any kind of hunts that I can't do at my house. I use a lot of tools and what we call SIEM devices in order to watch and look at aggregated logs that are ingested into our organization. Of course, I train constantly, so I'm always constantly training to upgrade my skills. In addition to, I have to write reports, so you have to know how to read and write, folks. You can't just kind of, if you can't describe exactly what's going on, how can you actually help them? Also, too, I complete a number of projects to help make the organization better. Now on my side hustle, I kind of do the same thing, but for small to medium-sized businesses on a very small scale. Does anybody have any questions? All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a video of a small to medium size, what they call a security operations center, which is a SOC, and how they deal with any kind of cybersecurity event. Now, this isn't necessarily how it looks in my organization. I didn't want to kind of use those videos. They're a little boring and, a little kind of, spy versus spy. I want to kind of give you a good idea of where you want to kind of focus your effort to go and get your education and then start and then end up coming over to us. So hopefully this is a play. Let's see. Can you hear it okay?
Not hearing anything yet.
What about now?
I'm not hearing anything. How about the audience?
Nobody can hear?
I don't believe so. I can try it from...
No biggie. I can go ahead and just talk my way through it. It's had a lot of cool music and a lot of cool little things for the audience. So I'll go ahead and I'll just let it play and I'll explain. So pretty much, nobody really uses security or thinks about security until it ends up happening. Most of the time, what we do in the background. So most of the time, people are going to work. They're just kind of sitting down, checking their emails, and they're not thinking about exactly kind of like, what's going on out there when we're not aware. Like, for instance, like law enforcement or ambulance, you don't need them until you call them, or the fire department. That's kind of what you do as a cybersecurity professional. So most of the time, a lot of cybersecurity incidents start extremely small, such as an email. Somebody could end up dropping some kind of USB drive in the parking lot somewhere, or just get socially engineered, such as somebody on a social media network steals your credentials, and then they end up logging into a database at a later time. But for just the kind of the general general day-to-day, you can't really tell. So what you're seeing is the first stage of the attack. The individual went ahead and she clicked on the link, and it ended up deploying a script on within the database of this organization. When the individuals started to when the individual couldn't when the individuals let me kind of turn this down a little bit, my son. So when the individuals needed to do a presentation, they couldn't do a presentation because their systems ended up getting locked down. Now, this is kind of the part where the individual that clicked on the link, don't click on suspicious links, folks. Always ask questions, even in school. The individual realized like, what have I done? And also, too, this could happen even if you just go to a website somewhere that you're not supposed to, and there's not proper security controls set up. I see somebody has a question.
Okay, and then I'm going to have another one for you
Gotcha.
as well. Oh, they were saying no audio.
Yeah, I have to talk through it. I thought I was going to be able to be cool and kind of have some videos for you here, so that way it'll be a little more interactive. But I'll just go ahead and talk my way through it. So pretty much, what these guys are part of what they call a security operations center, and they ended up getting an alert in their security information system, which the system itself determined it was ransomware. Now, most of the time, They're computers, right? So computers, you're kind of fighting the enemy with the enemy. So a lot of times the computer will end up they'll either do signature based detection or some kind of heuristic detection where they'll say, hey, this is not supposed to be how it is. This doesn't look right. Hey, person, human, go look at this. And that's exactly what ended up happening. Now what the individuals are end up doing now, all the clicky click on the dashboard, that doesn't really happen that way. More than likely the system will quarantine it. You'll get the ticket and then you just start working through the ticket. You'll start looking at the actual executables or any kind of the what they call the detection timeline to determine if this is actually either something that's real or something what we call a false positive. As excuse me, as you start as the investigation, depending on the type of investigation it is, as it starts getting more deeper in the weeds, you'll either go ahead and roll the system back, or you'll go ahead and quarantine whatever it is, set it off to the side, and then give it to what they call a higher tier a level, such as a forensic analyst. Or if it's something really big, you'll gen up what they call an incident response team, which is a whole different that's a whole different. I can talk about that all day. And an incident response team, think of it as a SWAT team for computer systems. You know, so everybody's patting themselves on the back because they were able to go ahead and mitigate the incident. Does anybody have any questions? Because I see 2 questions so far.
Okay, well, I do have a question
Mm-hmm.
for you, because you were saying what a cyber attack looks like, and it's clicking on a link in an email.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems that the nefarious people are getting very sophisticated. And I know when I get emails, I have to look at them very carefully because they're getting very good
Mm-hmm.
at looking like it's coming from a company that you actually know or a person that you know and do business with.
Mm-hmm.
So what you do is great, but is there any training for the regular people who aren't going into cybersecurity but need to be cybersecurity conscious, not only for the company that they work with, but with their personal equipment at home?
Mm-hmm. That's an awesome question because I try to. Okay, so I'm from Philadelphia, right? So I'm from West Philly. It comes down to straight up street smarts. So, for instance, if just say, for instance, somebody sends you a link and they say, "Hey, Don, click this link to look at these pictures." You kind of use a little bit of that street smart to say, "I'm not going to click that link. That doesn't look right," or whatever it is. Now, to the highly, like I said before, computers are built to fight other computers, right? So without getting deep in the weeds, there's what they call header information to the email. The header information has everything from what they call the SPF record or a DMARC record, where as it's going, as like the email is going over the wire, your Gmail or any kind of like endpoint detection system will go ahead and take a look at that and say, no, the IP addresses don't match where this is supposed to come from. That's not really whatever. Oh, hey, the system administrator said don't trust emails from here. Oh, hey, we know you're a spammer because a person, or we know you're a bad guy because all these folks out here across the entire world know that you're a bad guy. So a lot of times, a lot of that gets screened out. Now, if more than likely, if it's something that's tailored directly to you, so if they're tailoring it to your company, that starts moving more into a social engineering attack. That's where they'll start kind of doing actual reconnaissance on you as a person to say, hey, I know Don likes the Eagles. I know Don likes cars. I'm going to go ahead and say, hey, Don, with no whatever, like, no kind of like jacked up characters in there. Hey, you might want to click on this link because the Eagles lost and they picked up such and such, such and such. Oh, you know what? Hey, don't click on that link. Go to this website here. So once again, it takes the kind of the common sense to say, yeah, that doesn't sound right, or your system. So that's really a bad answer. So really, there really isn't no way to really kind of protect yourself other than making sure that you have things in place that are recommended by whatever kind of system you use. So if you use Gmail, you want to make sure that you have two-factor authentication. One thing I've been doing is I have what they call a YubiKey, which is a physical key that's that's attached to my Gmail account. So for instance, if nobody has this key, they can't get in my Gmail account. And then, for instance, if I were to click on a bad link and it took me somewhere, I have antivirus on my machine or some kind of protection to kind of stop that. Now, like I said, if it's not completely tailored to you, I'm going to say about 90% of the time you're good to go. Did that kind of answer it, or did I just kind of go off in the ether? Please tell me if I did.
A little bit of both, but that's good.
Okay.
We have a couple of questions in the Q&A that
Somebody has this key, they can't get in my Gmail account. And then, for instance, if I were to click on a bad link and it took me somewhere, I have antivirus on my machine or some kind of protection to kind of stop that. Now, like I said, if it's not completely tailored to you, I'm going to say about 90% of the time you're good to go. Did that kind of answer it, or did I just kind of go off in the ether? Please tell me if I did.
a little bit of both, but that's good.
Okay.
We have a couple of questions in the Q&A that I want to get to. One is, how can you tell who is causing the virus?
Okay, so a virus is kind of a different thing. We use a general term called malware. It depends. So, for instance, the internet is big, right? So it's one of those. I kind of picture it like an ecosystem or like a jungle, the wild, right? Where kind of everything is all interconnected. So, for instance, you're normally not going to be the first victim. If you're the first victim, then you are being targeted, i.e., like, they've done the recon, they've went ahead and they set up the social engineering attack. They went ahead, went on your Facebook, whatever, and they sent you whatever kind of exploit that they're, whatever. So with it being an environment, more than likely the computers have seen it before. So what you can do is you can take any number of what they call you can take any number of things to actually investigate whether and who it came from. So sometimes you can have the IP address, but you have the IPv4, IPv6. If it's an actual executable, you can go ahead and look at the hashes and then compare the hashes to other executables. If, for instance, you're a forensics analyst, you can go ahead and take the malware itself, download it somewhere, explode it in something they call a sandbox, and then look at the actual binaries to see if they how they line up, and then go ahead and match that against other binaries that are out there in the ether. More, like I said, it's like being in the jungle, and everybody is kind of interconnected with each other, and everybody talks, even the bad guys. So even the bad guys will go on some of the thing and say, hey, I went ahead and I used this thing before, whatever it is. Have anybody seen it before? Yeah, that's malware. That's from Joey. Oh, crap. All right, I'm not going to use it. Let me change that binary and go ahead and send it. So did that answer the question?
I hope so. If not,
so.
they can retype. They can retype into the Q&A. But I think you addressed it very well. Okay, so this next one, I don't know if you have it somewhere slides, but what's the worst cybersecurity attack you've ever experienced?
Okay. Because there's been like 5, and I don't want to give off.
Yeah, you got to pick one.
I don't want to get in trouble with my job. Let me see. I think in theory or actual event wise, because
I think they mean actual event.
Okay, actual event wise, I will honestly say there was something called TPM, which is so pretty much all computers have a chip that's embedded on the board itself. Now, this chip is pretty much like a key that's on this board, and every single computer that's out there has like some kind of, like, I'm just going to call it a little code or a key. There we go, a key on this little chip. So this key will go, in order for you to, how can I say, change this key, you would actually have to like go to the manufacturer, get the key, and whatever it is. Well, somebody along the way found a way to get into what we call the supply chain. So the supply chain is very simple. Is just say you grow carrots. You grow carrots. You go ahead, pick the carrots. You put them in a truck. You send them off to be washed and processed, and then they go to market. Well, somewhere along that line, if somebody goes ahead and takes those carrots and they go ahead and they put some, I don't know, I don't want to be so, but just say they put some badness on those carrots, and then they go to the supermarket and you eat them, and then you have problems. That's what they call, disrupting the supply chain. So somewhere along the line, somebody was able to go ahead and get this key or get within the supply chain and get this key, which is really, really bad because once they had that key, they were able to get into any single computer on the planet. So like any kind of laptop on the planet. So they kind of had the keys to the castle. The company itself went ahead and alerted us, and then we kind of went back and forth, and they came up with a solution eventually because they didn't know about it until what they call a vulnerability researcher had kind of brought it to their attention. So that's kind of, I think that's the worst one because most of the other ones are more so for social engineering. So like, there was a situation with Equifax that was in the news or whatever it is, and they
Right.
pretty much got in pretty easy because they pretty much stole the credentials of somebody important. So, yeah.
Okay, well,
Good
yeah,
question.
that was a pretty bad one. The supply chain, I think the pandemic, most people didn't know the word supply chain until the pandemic.
Ah, okay, I got you.
Everyone learned the hard way
I got
um,
you.
about that. So that was, don't see any more questions. So carry on, please.
Oh, okay, got you. So I'm not going to show this video because I thought it was a pretty cool video of how a hacker actually ended up going through what we call the kill chain in order to get the credentials of the I think this was their marketing person or their CEO. They got into the network of the company, and then they ended up doing some badness. But we're just go ahead and skip that. Pretty much like I've said before, everybody's a target. So unfortunately, I hate to say this, but everybody in this room, all your parents, every company in the United States of America, they're at war. And the reason why I say that is because our adversaries, which and there are, trust me on this, they are bad guys, and I'm not understating it, and I'm not putting a Hollywood spin on it. A lot of these cats would like to take down the United States because, as I explained to everybody, remember, our adversaries have bosses just like I have a boss. So if I'm say let's pick on a bad country that whatever. So North Korea. So if I'm a North Korean, what they call an advanced persistent threat, i.e., say part of the North Korean hacking military or whatever it is, I have a boss. My boss listens to Kim Jong Un. Kim Jong Un says, "Hey, I want to be able to turn off the lights of the United States at a moment's notice because in order for me to do that, because I don't have aircraft carriers, I don't have fighter jets, I don't have Marines, so I want to be able to turn the United States off so that way I can bend them to my will." So they go and they give it to a underling, and the underling says, "Okay, not a problem, great leader. We're going to go ahead and make sure this happens." Then that person, normally a general, whatever it is, to give it to some person, just some regular old person. It's like, hey, we're going to pay you or we're not going to feed you. And we need you to come up with something. So then that way, when I give you an order to shut off the lights in the United States, we can do it. Now, the hard part about that is the United States is a patchwork of a patchwork of a patchwork. So there's nothing going to be universal that'll work across the board for the United States. So it won't be just one, like in the movies, you'll see they'll come up with one malware and they'll go ahead and send it, whatever it is, but it doesn't work that way. Because remember, we have McDonald's, we have KFC, we have Taco Bell, right? Everybody's different. So this person that works for this general will say, hey, I need to go ahead and do this. And they'll come up with whatever they need to come up with. One of the things that came across when I was doing some research is that back in 2020, they went ahead and they hacked through, they hacked high-profile social media accounts. Well, social media accounts have influence. If I go ahead and I go on, say, I don't know, Kanye West's media site, and I say, hey, guys, look, go ahead and click this link right here because this link will go ahead and, I don't know, I think he replaced his teeth with some titanium or something like that. Look at my new titanium teeth, right? Person goes and clicks on that link, they go somewhere, it's a part of what they call a botnet, and then they end up using your computer to attack the Department of Treasury or something like that to shut down their payment system so they can't go ahead and pay the what they call the tax checks, the tax refund checks. So, like I said, everybody's a target. We're all at war. Any questions? I see 6 questions popping in there.
Yeah. Let me ask you. Well, let me ask you this: what you just said, where they use something to attack your computer gets to attack something else. Does that get traced back to you and you have to try to prove your innocence that you weren't the
Nope.
one that
Negative.
initiated this?
Yep. One good thing I can say is that the three-letter agencies and the Department of Homeland Security and other threat people, other threat hunters and cybersecurity professionals, they know. So if, for instance, like my little computer is sending out billions and billions of things, first and foremost, your ISP is going to know. So your ISP, such as like your AT&T, your Fizos, whoever you pay for your internet from, they have pretty robust cybersecurity teams or just IT teams in general that just say, this is not right. Why is this person's computer that's living in Florida doing this? And they'll either go ahead and say, well, yeah, we'll send them an email and just kind of cut that off or whatever it is. So people are pretty smart. Now, there are situations where, yes, but more so, that's if you yourself are, say, a vulnerability researcher and you're actually doing stuff. Now you can start moving kind of into the gray where you can end up getting in trouble. So that's where that. So if you're a regular person, you don't have to worry about it. But if you're kind of like a vulnerability tester, you can start moving within that. You start moving in those circles a little bit closer. To answer your question.
Okay. Yes. Okay. I think we're all caught up on questions, so you can
Okay.
press on.
Perfect. So, wow, I did not know that I was going to be able to take up all this time with with this. So I'll go ahead and run through this as quick as possible. The boring stuff is, so pretty much a threat hunting cycle. I develop a hypothesis, like I said before. The individual in North Korea, what are they doing? What are they going after? Once I identify that, I might start researching what they call TTPs, which are tactics and procedures to understand kind of what that adversary is doing. I start conducting research in that ecosystem that I was talking about. Also, too, if the individual that I'm helping out, the company or small to medium-sized business, if they have vulnerabilities that can be leveraged by these actors. After that, I start investigating the threat. And pretty much an investigation is kind of the same as a law enforcement investigation. You see you see a broken window, you kind of say, okay, why is that window broken at 3:00 in the morning? Let me go ahead and investigate. And then once everything is done, I'll go ahead and make a response, which is that report writing. Where then I'll either help person out or then we'll send a incident response team. All right, how to get started. So this is the fun part. This is what I thought I was going to, kind of start getting all the questions for. So getting started in this field, like I said, I kind of fell into this field where I kind of started out. I thought I was going to go work for Microsoft and just kind of be a big old sysadmin for Microsoft. But cybersecurity just kind of just said, hey, you like security, let's go ahead and talk about the education steps. So first and foremost, you got to complete high school. That's number one. You can get away with getting your GED, but it might be a little bit harder because there's a lot of like underlying concepts that you have to understand before you start kind of getting into cyber. So for instance, you have to know how to read, you have to know how to count, and you have to know to do addition and subtraction. Remember, we are dealing with computers, so you do have to deal with code. Now, if you, depending on where you want to go in your career, you can start getting into higher level math, statistics, some kind of like artificial intelligence, machine learning, but that's kind of higher up in the career. Just to get started, you want to go ahead and get your high school diploma. Now, here's the thing that I wanted to really kind of push. You do not need to go to an Ivy League school or one of these MIT programs or these really expensive programs. However, but there's a caveat to that. Remember, it's not the cybersecurity person that's reading your resume. It's the hiring people that are reading your resume. So with that being said, if you do decide to go to an Ivy League school, that will help you kind of put it on top of the pile, but it doesn't necessarily, but if I've hired people before for the government and for my company, it doesn't necessarily say, oh, this guy went to MIT. Okay, I'm going to use this guy. How Hollywood would have you think, because always in Hollywood, they always have this one person that, oh, they graduated from MIT and they do this and they do this, whatever it is. No, that's not the case. Remember, our adversaries, a lot of those guys, they don't have any kind of formal education. Somebody gives them a computer, they go to YouTube and they learn. A lot of the state schools have a lot of cybersecurity programs. So a lot of the trade schools you can go to. And also too, there's a number of online schools that you can go to, such as WGU. You can go to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, or you can go to some of the local colleges within your area. You just have to go ahead and look it up. Finally, you can go ahead and learn on your own. If you are a self-starter and you're somebody that you really kind of want to start learning on your own, you can go ahead and crack open YouTube, start going and start coding.
Okay, I do have a question for you that's
Yes.
kind of related to that, and particularly since you talked about the Ivy Leagues. One of the few benefits that I give them credit for is their network.
Yes.
Since we're talking about, so since most of the people on here are young people, how can they start networking even before they get out of high school?
Perfect question.
Do you have any recommendations?
Yes. And it depends. So if they want a career in IT or cyber or something technical related, the best thing for them to do is to do projects. So everything now is kind of project based. So if I'm a young person, so if Don was not born back in the olden days, 'cause I know a lot of these kids, like, I was born in the olden days. If I was born today,
you and me both.
But you were born during the good olden days. I was born in the middle, like, not. So, like, projects are where you want to be. So, for instance, if you're curious about something, you say, "Hey, I want to go ahead and create a server," right? You go ahead, you look at YouTube, you go ahead, you find out what you need, you build your server, then you go and you open up something like a LinkedIn page or some kind of Facebook group that you're allowed to for, like, maybe some kind of technical thing. More than likely, I would say go to route of LinkedIn because it's a little more professional. And by the way, don't go anywhere and tell your parents of it. My dad, Mr. Brightful told me to get on social media. Ask your parents before you get on some social media, right? So once you get on there, you can start building your resume. You can just go ahead and just put student, whatever high school, and then you can say, "Hey, I built a server that does X." Next year, "Hey, I built a computer that did X." What ended up happening is, as you start finding people that are part of trade groups, organizations, you can start following those folks and then following their careers. Then you can start kind of going to their webinars that are free, going to events in the local area. You can join like youth organizations, like something like Black Girls Can Code. And as you start getting more and more, how can I say, you start collecting people to get them into your sales funnel. Once you go ahead and graduate high school, trade school, you get a certification, you already have a list of who you can reach out to start your career. So if you go ahead, so for instance, let's use a good example, my daughter. Now, my daughter wants to go to a big school. When she gets in high school, I'm already going to have her start on projects that will start building her resume. So then somebody will say, "Hey, why don't you come intern with me for a summer and let's go see." And then that's how you start growing your network.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yes,
all
ma'am.
right, didn't mean to interrupt, but
No,
I
you're
thought
good.
That was important. It was connected to your education and training.
No, you're perfectly good. And like I said, I'm sorry I'm so long-winded, but I'm really excited about this career field. So like I said, shut me up and ask me questions. So like I said before, you can go a number of routes in order to get your education. You can train with somebody like me at the Nexus-Dragon. You can go to CompTIA, or you can go to somewhere like YouTube, which is free. But here's a caveat with YouTube. You have to be careful because remember, I'm just a guy that's on YouTube. And I may or may not help you. Now, one of the good things is it's open source. So you'll have people in the comments that say, "Don't listen to Don. He sucks. Do not listen to this guy." And if you see 5656 comments, you might not want to listen to Don. But I don't know. There's a guy I follow called the Mad Hatter for cybersecurity, and he's pretty funny. So, right. So the fun part, I'm sorry people dropped out. Finding your first job, because that's what it's about, is that job, right? I'm glad that you brought it up about the networking. The thing about information technology for you children is that you guys are living in a golden age. So every single thing you do in your life, you're touching technology. Every time you watch Netflix, every time you go ahead and you go to Discord, you're touching tech. So like I said before, in order to stand out, you want to make sure that you knock out projects. Do as many projects as you can. The same way as when a kid back in the day would open up a radio, take a radio apart, put it back together. Well, today you can take that and then put it on YouTube. If you got to start your own YouTube channel and say, hey guys, here's my first thing. I'm going to go ahead and build my first server. Or hey, I'm going to go ahead and set up an AWS instance. There's an individual on YouTube right now, and he sets up AWS instances, and he is legit. I reached out to him on LinkedIn because he was so legit. I was like, hey, might want to go ahead and join our organization, but that's So the main thing about getting that first job is networking, because when you're in IT, you kind of run into the chicken or the egg thing where you don't have experience and you don't have the certifications. So you want to go ahead and try to network as much as possible. For your continued success, you want to go ahead and keep upgrading your skills. If there's something out there that, for say, that your company is doing or your organization is doing, you want to go ahead and try to upgrade your skills. The more you upgrade your skills, the more you increase your skill sets, the better off you can be. Now, remember, everybody, technology changes over every 2 years. So most of the stuff that I learned back in, say, 2016-ish is completely obsolete. Some things are good or still around because I work for the government, but some things are not. It's like, for instance, AI was not a thing back in 2016. It was there, but it wasn't a thing as it is now. Another great organization, and I put this in there, I was hoping to try to go to the website itself, is cyberseek.org. If any of you want to follow a career in cybersecurity, you want to go ahead and start with Cyberseek. Cyberseek is a nonprofit organization that will actually give you a path and help you navigate to where you need to be in order to get into a career in cybersecurity. Now, let's talk about the good part. Good part is the money. That's not, I'm not, now, let me tell you this. If you get into this career, you will eat, and you will eat for a long time. First and foremost, sometimes some of the space is saturated, but by the time you folks actually get out of high school or middle school and start moving on, there's going to be new technologies, new things, and it's all going to need security. Everything's going to need security. So I went ahead and I did the average pay for somebody in Philadelphia, the median. Now, this is in the middle, kids. I don't know if you guys have taken the bell curve yet, but this stuff is like, i.e., this is like I can throw a rock at a cybersecurity person and their median income is $81,000. $81,000. Now, think about this, making $81,000 as like a young 21, 22-year-old kid. And that is including the military. Now, don't get me wrong. Now, you may not get $81,000 per year in the military, but sure enough, as you get bonuses and they give you bonuses and stuff, it will translate to that. For me as a threat hunter, our skill, I kind of took all my resume and I dropped it into ChatGPT, and I have a lot of different skill sets from a lot of different parts of cybersecurity. So we're kind of on the upper scale of the pay scale, but $163,000 is by no means the end. I've met an individual that actually makes $335,000 per year, and they're just a worker. They're not like the CEO of the company. So if you plan to get into a career field like this, this is a great career field to get into. So I thought that would get all the kids excited because they're like, whoa, what?
I'm sure it has.
Any questions?
I don't see any right now. I'll continue to monitor.
Raj. All right, work-life balance. Yes, because you get these salaries, you do have to work, and it all depends on whatever kind of corporation that you're a part of. Some corporations will, if you ever go into like in a tech space or whatever it is, you'll see they'll feed you all the time. They'll have gyms for you or whatever it is, but they want you to work. For me, my work-life balance is really good because I work on computers. Therefore, that I only go into the shop 3 days a week. So that's phenomenal. How many times do you say, okay, I get paid all this money, but I only go to work 3 times a week? And it's fun. So the work-life balance is there. Job security. I will make this, and it's recorded, that I will be employed all the way out until I'm in the grave. Everybody needs security, and information security is not going away. Now, will my field itself be around? That's to be debated. But that's why you always upgrade your skills so you can always stay relevant. Things to keep in mind. Sense of pride. One of the things the reason why I threw this in here is, what makes me feel good is I'm doing something I like, but at the same time, I am protecting the United States of America. So all the kind of the freedoms and stuff that you like enjoy, like for instance, the internet, right? Trust me, bad guys would like to collapse that thing too, keeping the lights on for like, keeping the keeping you warm in the winter. So my job is to make sure that stuff stays going. It's same in conjunction with the rest of the federal government that works in the security space. AI and the future of threat hunting. Now, AI is kind of taking over a lot of jobs. This is not one job that AI would take over completely. Now, what end up happening is my job will end up being more like Jarvis, where I'll have a assistant who will be kind of like my side cart person that will help me go ahead and investigate threats. In fact, AI has already kind of been in the cybersecurity space since I'm going to say maybe about 2018-ish, maybe right around then or whatever it is. It's already been there. Most of the tools have been integrated into a lot of the tools that they sell to the federal government and et cetera. So you don't have to worry about your job being replaced. Who can be a threat hunter? Anybody. So if you like cooking and then you decide to change your career and want to be a threat hunter, you can come be a threat hunter. We have an individual right now. She's going through the little training program we have, and she started out as a behavioral health scientist. That's how she started out, and now she's a threat hunter. Education and growth. I should have kind of put skill in here also. The career satisfaction is there because, like I said, when I leave at the end of the day, I know I did something. And the career is just downright fun. I've worked with some of the most smartest, funnest people I can imagine. I've been to locations that I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this exists. There's stuff that I can't talk about on here that I know that I'm like, wow, that's cool. Okay, now I understand. So the career, the job is just phenomenal. So I talked too long, and I should have had this only 30
No,
minutes.
you were great. You
Okay.
you were great.
Does anybody have any questions? Let's get the questions started.
Yep, last opportunity for any questions. We have a few more minutes left. So anything that you want to throw out, please use the Q&A as opposed to the chat.
And ask me
Seems
anything. Ask me about the Eagles, about the kids. It doesn't matter. Open book.
Yeah, what happened to the Eagles?
I think they just gave up.
I am the only
Get over a
person I'm
cold.
a football fan.
Yeah.
But I heard all about, yeah, it was difficult not to hear that.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, on the cybersecurity issue, please drop any questions in the Q&A. We're going to give it a minute more for you to compose any questions, and Mr. Brightful will answer them. Oh, let me see, we have one. Can you please talk briefly about the training that you mentioned to help people get their tier 1 analysts? I guess you mean certification.
So what that is that's a company, that's my company. I designed a training program to get somebody to what we call a tier 1 analyst, and that's pretty much an individual that can sit in the seat, understand the alerts that are coming across to them, and able to escalate those alerts to a higher person. That training is designed specifically for a person with 0 to 1 year worth of skills. Also, there's other training organizations out there that you can just go ahead and drop in Google, and then depending on whatever your flavor is for how you like to train, they're out there.
Okay, we have a two-part question. How does payment overall vary in cybersecurity? And then the second is, and are there physical jobs that are included in this field? I guess she means actually tinkering with the equipment if something gets in there. I'm not sure. If I didn't phrase that correctly, let me know. And but why don't you start with the payment part first?
Okay, just give me that one more time for the payment stuff.
How does payment overall vary in cybersecurity? So I guess that means, the difference between a bank teller and a bank president.
Right.
So the range.
Got you. So it depends. So if, just say for instance, you're a specialist and you're, say, a threat hunter, I'm just going to just kind of throw that buzzword out there. You could get paid more than, say, the CEO of a small company, depending on like if you're a consultant, depending on if you like you work for a third company or you just work in a company, you know how everything works. Now, you know, it depends. The first thing you want to do, and I'll just kind of put this from like a high schoolish or person, now I'll put it from a person that graduated college. To get in the door, the pay scale is about 30% more than what you would get paid as a non-STEM job. So, for instance, if I come in and say I went ahead and I went through a cybersecurity program, I did 4 years. I came out as a cybersecurity program. I ran into one of these kids on an exercise that I just did. His pay kind of started roughly between about 60 to about $70,000. Now, granted, he was really good. I mean, he like was working for John Hopkins, you know. So but he was I call him a young Thundercat. He's like as young as my daughter, and I'm like, what? So yeah, he's in that range. So the pay is really good if you're willing to commit to it. But once you get into the field, you want to go ahead and upgrade your skills as much as possible so then that way you can always stay on that cutting edge and always moving. Like, for instance, I'm moving towards the cloud. Now, I'll answer the question about physical quickly. Yes, there is a physical component to it, but that's more so around being a network engineer, where you do have cyber uh, to it, but it's not necessarily threat hunting. And that will be a person. So, for instance, let me like the cloud, right? So everybody talks about the cloud. Well, let me dampen this stuff. The cloud is a real place. So they're what they call data centers where they have all the servers like Google's like when you go to Google, their server is about this big. It's probably smaller now, but it's about this big, this thick. It's a little small form that they put in a storage unit and they just kind of keep it there. As a network engineer, you are responsible for making sure that that place is secure. You're responsible for making sure that the components are secure so nobody can stick a USB drive in it or something like that. So, yes, so you plug and play the components and then program the stuff, whatever it is. So, if you like to move around, and then also, too, if you decide to go work for like a cell phone company, the cell phone towers that you drive by on the whatever, you ever notice that they're all kind of like they got like a lot of locks and stuff on them? That's because they don't need an individual to go to the cell tower, plug in a USB, and then compromise everybody's text network or whatever it is in order for them to do what they got to do. So you can go ahead and climb lines and put stuff in or whatever it is. So there's definitely a physical component, but that's more so network engineering as opposed to being a threat hunter, cybersecurity information analyst. I see more
Okay.
questions popping in.
Yes, you have more questions. They're related, so I'm
Love
going to rattle off straight.
it. Mm-hmm.
Is there training to get the tier one analyst that your business office, excuse me, offers virtual and or online? And how long is the training? And do you provide it to individuals or for groups to learn together?
Yep. So for individuals, the program is designed for individuals. It spans about a month, 3 days per week. I did have it about a week, but you're not going to be able to kind of get it in a boot camp. So I expanded it to about 3 days a week for about a month. That should get you through the basics of computers, and then also kind of the basics of cyber before you jump into say something like Security Plus or Network Plus, where you start getting hardcore into like getting certified and then moving up. So I say about maybe a month, a solid month of just kind of like learning the ropes and learning the basics. Did I answer the question?
We'll find out in a minute, but here you have another one. Do you have any recommendations for for adults and professionals who may be considering career change to entry level cybersecurity?
Yep. So you have my program. There's other programs you can Google online. WGU has a program. Drexel has a program. You can go. All you got to do is Google it, and then it's all what your flavor is. So it's kind of a ROI. So for instance, I wouldn't necessarily go and pay for a $10,000 program for a tier one thing, but that may be something that like, okay, well, yeah, that'll get me whatever. One of the advantages I have is that because I'm on what we call the bleeding edge, I'm not on the cutting edge, I'm on the bleeding edge. So most of the time I kind of know what we're looking for in an analyst before the regular industry does. Like the industry, I talked to a CEO of a Fortune 500 company when I was dealing with an incident, and I was like, okay. So, and then I talked to another Fortune 500 CISO, and I'm like, okay. So it kind of gave me an idea that, like, because remember, the industry is about money. So they're about trying to get out there and do it faster, stronger, whatever it is. So just Google what you want and it'll pop up and you're good to go. Or just go ahead and just give me a call. Any more questions?
Okay.
I love the
Last
questions. Love the questions.
last opportunity here for questions.
Mm-hmm. And
We'll
also
give
too, I
you
do it with a group too. So like, it doesn't, it's all your flavor. However, so if you want to do it in a group or an individual, we can do it that way too. Other programs do the same thing.
Okay, and how again when because you said it's about a month, but about how many hours a week? Because again, we have mostly students on here, so they kind of have some other things that they need
Mm-hmm.
to take care of as
Yep.
well.
So the program so there's a nighttime and a daytime program. Mostly I'm running the nighttime program right now because I am employed. I got a job too. So it goes from about 5 to 10 p.m. at night.
Don, your mic went out.
Uh-oh. Okay. What about now? Can you hear me?
Now you're muted. Try unmuting.
What about now? Like, good?
Nope, nope, thumbs down. You're for some reason you're not back.
Oh, wow. Give me 1 second.
Let me see if I can do something on my end. And could you drop your contact information in the chat? I know
Sure.
it's on the slides, but just
You hear me?
for redundancy. Oh, interesting. Everyone else could hear you. I couldn't. So go
Okay.
on with your go on with what you were saying.
Okay, got you. Well, I forgot what I was saying. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so it's about like 5 to 10 o'clock at night. And depending on how involved you want to get for the project for you. And remember, there's a lot about projects because a lot of employers want to see what you can do as opposed to say, hey, I got a certification, so or I have an education, okay, well, what can you do? So it's about projects. Hold on, let me go ahead and drop my information in here. I apologize. I should have had this set up for the thing. Give me 1 second here. So that way
I
you
don't know
guys
what
can go to the
happened.
right one.
When you're done, just drop something in the Q&A so that I know, because yeah, for some reason we've disconnected.
Oh, it may be maybe it's because the they kind of it's probably the session itself maybe. Does anybody have any other questions or anything they can drop in the chat?
Okay, looks like that's that. All right, are there any last questions? I want to thank you so much. You were so informative and engaging and full of energy, and it looks like the participants got a lot out of it. I hope to make this available on YouTube somewhere down the road. It will not be immediate. There's his contact information for those that want to grab that. Okay, I'm going to make one. Oh, okay. And we have thank yous coming in.
Awesome.
And yes, I thank you very much for sharing all of your knowledge, information, insights, encouragement to the young people. And I thank all of those who attended. I hope that you're taking away a lot from this. I have one last poll if I can get that up. If you, it just helps me know how to plan these going forward. So if you could take just a moment to answer that. And wait, I see a couple of.
Yep.
Okay. So it's more thank yous and great information. The contact info is in the chat, not the Q&A. So if you're looking in the Q&A, it's not there. It's oh, well, now it is.
I dropped it in the Q&A.
So it's in both places.
Yep.
Okay, and with that, I am going to once again thank Mr. Brightful for joining us today. And I thank our audience members. And remember, you can check the Teshley Solutions website, which is teshley.com, for other upcoming events in other fields. And I hope everyone has a great afternoon. If you have an NFL team, I hope they win. And stay warm and take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.